Right, it's time for Kieran Donaghy Shot Clock. He's here with us to talk about the big stories of the week. We're going to talk about them, we're going to debate them back and forth, and then at the end of it, we might have scores, who knows. Kieran, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much, sir.
So we're going to go through these topics, right? This is very straightforward, and then at the end of it, we're going to have an interview. David Brady's going to join us to talk about the passing of a legendary coach this week. Our first topic, we've kind of done it a little bit to death, but I want to get your take on it. So we're going to start with the defection of Declan Rice. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I suppose, look, it's disappointing. He's, looked like he was going to be a great player for Ireland. We were all delighted to have him. Then he's got his head turned by England. You're kind of going, the minute I heard it, I was going to be worried, because the quality of the player. His grandparents are from Ireland. He's born in England. He was raised in England. All his friends are English. He's probably been watching both, Can he be proud to be both? Can he be proud of his Irish ancestry, and can he be proud to be English?
What's your ancestry like?
Yeah, like my dad's Tyrone.
Is it part of you feel a bit Tyrone?
Yeah, proud of my Tyrone blood, absolutely. But also a very proud Kerry man. So, if Tyrone had called me when I was 15 to say, when I was useless at football and couldn't get on any Kerry team, will you come up and play for Tyrone? I would have probably gone, yeah, I might go up and play for Tyrone. But then at the same time, if Kerry come back at me and say, we want you to play for Kerry, who have 36 All-Irelands and all this history, and maybe have a better chance, you might have a better chance even. That ended up being a great Tyrone team that went on to win 3 All-Irelands, but at that stage they had no All-Irelands when I was that age. So you're looking at Kerry. Could we come back and play with Kerry? I'd be like, probably, yeah. I was born in Kerry. My friends are from Kerry. My mother's from Kerry. Yeah. So it's a tricky. It is a tricky one. Like it looks to me that it's just a complete. He probably didn't see this coming. He was 16 when he was playing for Ireland. We got to realise what age he's. He's probably finished his junior cert. Like, you know what I mean? Will you play for Ireland? Absolutely, I'll play for Ireland. Nobody from England's called me. There's been loads of players that have been born in England that have played for Ireland and represented us really well and be very proud to be Irish. And I've no doubt that if the England call never came, he would have been very proud to be an Irishman and gone on and played really well for us.
So it's Martin O'Neill's fault?
Well, that's what you say, yeah, that's what you say. But I don't think it's... could he have given him the call? Would he have forced his hand a bit? Maybe was he thinking at this stage, I'm good enough, I might go play for England. Yeah, look, we're gutted to lose him, but it's a business decision, I think, long term.
That's it, and it is the sense that we're a bit ashamed because we tried something and it failed. That's what we're ashamed of here.
Yeah, possibly.
It's not that he's made a horrible decision and wronged us, really. It's that we tried something, it didn't come off, and you're left with egg on your face. Like, that's...
Yeah, it's probably where both teams are right now as well. England a good World Cup. They say Gareth Southgate's a great manager. Ireland are a bit all over the place at the moment. Yeah. Bringing in a new manager now, another new manager in 2 years, or maybe he's looking at Southgate might be a good
there
fit
for the long term.
Yeah,
and help them to develop as well.
Until they lose 3 games and English want to get rid of Southgate.
It's true. Although he seems to have managed that quite well. So so our next topic this week is Dublin's weak spot, and believe it or not, this pertains to Stephen Cluxton, but more about his absence from the team. Kieran, explain this. All of a sudden, Dublin look human. How did that happen?
It's just his effect. Like, you look at how good he's been for so long for this Dublin team, and you're watching the last day, and Evan Comerford's a very good goalkeeper, great reports coming out of club football for him. He's been in with Dublin, really, a solid goalkeeper. But when you try and compare solid with how good Stephen Cluxton has been for this long for Dublin, I don't think there's ever been a player, and maybe never a player again, that runs a team like Stephen Cluxton does. You talk about Tom Brady with the New England Patriots, how stable himself and Belichick have been. You have a feeling if Jim Gavin came in at the exact same time as Stephen Cluxton, you'd have that dynamic that Dublin have. He's the quarterback of the team, he runs them, and just in Tralee on Saturday night, they just missed. You could just see, like if Cluxton plays Saturday night, Dublin probably win by a point or 2. There was 1 or 2 little slight errors early in the game that led to Kerry points. But it's much more than that. It's how safe they feel at the back. Even them few high balls that came in that were scrambles, and Kerry ended up getting the goals and 45s out of them. You just have a feeling Cluxton may have handled them a bit better. Kerry don't get a goal and a point, and then Dublin win by 3 or 4 points. And that's how fine the margins are. I just think he's just so important to Dublin. Like, if there was if he was to miss, like he missed the game last year, it didn't really matter. It was against Westmeath. You know, he was injured, but you know, if he was injured and got injured for an All-Ireland semi-final, like, you know, it's a real talking point about how effective Dublin could be without him.
Yeah, what's he actually like on the field of play when you are coming up against him and you're in that full forward line and you're hearing? What's he saying? What's he doing that makes you think he's different from everybody else?
He's just such a great communicator. I played with him in the international rules too. He'd be very quiet. Obviously, does no media, doesn't do any of that. You know, he doesn't let you in that way. But as a teammate, he would be very direct in meetings. And yeah, playing against him, he's he's keeping fellas on their toes. He's not really roaring and shouting and bellowing non-stop, but he's keeping everybody on their toes and making sure that they're doing their jobs the right way.
Been no sign of him back just yet this year. The media would tend to speculate about stuff like this, you know, the whole JO situation. Where is Cluxton? Yeah,
I think Cluxton is taking his break and he'll be maybe giving his kicking leg a bit of a break for a while, but yeah, he's going nowhere.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay, next thing that we're talking about here is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job. Is it Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job at this point, having had a remarkable opening to his career as the manager of Manchester United? Does he deserve the job? Is he exactly what that club needs right now? Somebody who fully understands the traditions of the club, the demands of the role, who has the ear of Alex Ferguson, who is clearly leaning on Ferguson's greatness and genius, and who is actually somebody who can bring Ferguson back into the club in a meaningful way, as opposed to everybody else who kind of needs to keep him at arm's length? Or are Manchester United completely crazy to be considering this? What do you think, Kieran?
I think Solskjaer, I love him. Like the way he's gone about it. Even liked him as a player, which as a Chelsea fan would always be hard to admit, but just like the way he went about his business and how deadly he was. And I think United were very smart. I think they waited till the right time. Mourinho had a lot of tough games, ended up losing 3-1 to Liverpool. Ship him out, bring in Solskjaer. A lot of mediocre teams playing United for the next 10 or 11 games. He'll dip his toe in it. He'll get us back and he'll lift the mood, the spirit of the team. Is he the right long term? I think their next 5 games in the next month: Chelsea, Liverpool, PSG away, Arsenal, Man City. I think I'd be holding tough. I think Pochettino is probably a guy that I would be holding out for and seeing how that develops. But United were certainly very smart about how they did this, and Solskjaer's lifted the spirits, lifted the mood. The players seem to play with a bit more freedom. He's got them playing the United way. But you'd have to see how this month fares out, because if they're not winning the games or they lose a lot of these big games, I think you kind of go back to kind of a scenario where, yeah, maybe how much of a kick did this give at the start, and is it plateauing now, and how much of a pedigree he has in management, and would be kind of called into question.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like the new manager bounce is fine when it's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because he does understand the traditions of the club, but actually what they really need is someone like Thomas Tuchel, who comes along and says, I've got European pedigree, I've got a team which is, you know, on paper a little bit better than yours, but not that much better, and I completely dominate your team and we win 2-0 because I know how European football is supposed to go. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does not have that experience, doesn't have the track record of managing teams at the top level of European football. It seems weird to me that Man United are only being linked with Pochettino, really. The fact that like he happens to also work in the Premier League. Do they not have the internet? Can they not do a little bit of research and go and see who the best managers in Germany are, the best managers in France or Italy?
Saying that though, if he comes in and doesn't do a good job straight away, it's kind of, oh, what did he do? He was out of PSG for a few years, you know, like the English Premiership is a graveyard. You know what I mean? If you're not doing it, you're gone. And I think they see Pochettino, they see him every week, how well he's doing with Tottenham. He's just a much like if they didn't go at, but he's safe, but he's a good manager. That's clear to do what he's doing with Tottenham with the resources he has and the money that Daniel Levy's given him.
When you think back to the result, the Man United Spurs result, and everybody going, oh, it's Ole Gunnar's now, and there was all those memes of Solskjaer moving him out of his seat and all that kind of stuff, and then they go to European football, and despite the fact he's missing all his best players, Pochettino still puts out a team that can win 3-0 against Dortmund, who are really good, and it's not even close, really. Man United didn't get to the pitch of that game in any meaningful way. Now, granted, 2 very important players go off at half-time, so maybe it's unfair.
Yeah, I think that possibly might have rattled him, but you look at it and, he did beat Tottenham. They scored earlier on. Rashford, you know, it was a tight kind of game for the rest of it. Could have gone either way.
Yeah.
They beat Arsenal. But the rest of the teams, they were teams that you'd be fancying United to beat. So
yeah, it's true.
Solskjaer is a tricky one. You know, the real die-hard United. If I was United, I'd be saying give it to Solskjaer because my heart to be overruling my head, but I still think they should wait it out.
Yeah, 6 months time, you'd be like, oh man.
Yeah, see how this next month goes, and never mind 6 months.
Next up, we've got Sean O'Brien. So the news came through that Sean O'Brien will be leaving Leinster after the World Cup. He's going to be joining the London Irish Revolution and making loads of money for himself at the age of 32. Given how little rugby he's played over the last number of years, is it right that that will automatically mean the end of his Ireland career, or does Andy Farrell decide, screw that, I'm picking Sean O'Brien, irrespective of who's available to me, because he is one of the best players, one of the best rugby players ever, according to Ronan O'Gara at the weekend. Not just one of the best Irish players or one of the best back rows or one of the best sevens, but one of the best rugby players, which is high praise. So what do you do here?
Firstly, Sean O'Brien, Jesus, is there anything better than the Tullow tank, putting it under his arm, looking at somebody and taking off, charging for them? I think an inspirational player for Leinster, been unbelievable to watch. For Ireland, there's no other player that gives you that buzz that when he picks a ball and goes, that he's, you know, Peter Manny's coming into that, you know, elk now, but Sean O'Brien for years has been absolutely unbelievable, and, you know, to soldier through all the injuries and to keep coming back. And yeah, he owes Leinster absolutely nothing. Had an unbelievable career with them, brought success that they'd never seen before, along with the rest of the great players they had in that team. You know, around for the best age of Irish rugby ever. And, you know, now moving on to a new challenge, which for him I'd say would be an exciting thing. I don't know what Catley's going to have over in London, but I'm sure you get somebody to look after that. But yeah, no. Do you pick him? It's a tricky. You know, if rules are rules, and there's a grey area in this. Johnny was allowed to go to France and play, and, you know, we see Simon Zebo hasn't worked out, and, you know, Sean might be in, and it might be an age thing, it might be just a manager's feeling towards them, but, you know, I think Sean probably knows that this decision is going to, you know, change that up a small bit, and probably means the end from an international. And he's probably looking at it that he's 32. He's had a few injuries, and, you know, that's a lot of, you know, he'll get a bit more time to be right and rest and recuperate, I think, over in London Irish. Yeah,
and also I suspect if you're London Irish, you're signing Sean O'Brien knowing that he can't then go off and play for Ireland. That's part of the deal that they want.
I would say it is. Like, mind him.
And that exactly, and that's why they're happy to pay him the money that they're paying him. But
yeah,
like one of those iconic figures in Irish sport, that it was interesting too. O'Gara said that, you know, when he was in the Ireland camp, he united the Munster-Leinster factions. It wasn't like, oh, here's another Leinster lad.
Yeah, he's just got this real. I've met him and a few times, and he's just got a real good way about him. I can see him being great crack. He's very good on Instagram. He's rooming with Peter O'Mahony lately. He's inside. Peter's walking into the room. He's got the camera and him. Hey, you're rooming with me. And Peter's like, oh. He's like, do you miss me? And Peter's like, no, I don't miss you. Half tick, because there's a bit of banter going on between them. But he strikes me as an unbelievable teammate. Really down to earth guy. You know, even the money that London Irish are paying, it's big money, but really for what these guys do compared to what the soccer players are getting, it's,
yeah,
you know, some of these soccer players are earning that a week, which is scary, considering what these rugby players put their body on the line and how they put their body on the line for their clubs and their countries. And Sean O'Brien was no better man to put his body on the line. He put his head where most people wouldn't put their feet.
It's obviously quite a while away, but I would like to see him involved in Irish rugby in some way, like as a coach or as a recruiter or something. There you go. A new sound saying, shut up. All right, so let's move on. Sorry is next. So this is going to be particularly interesting because it turns out Kieran Donaghy is a Chelsea fan and knows exactly what he's talking about here. This is something that we've seen a lot. A manager comes in, says he's going to lay down the law, and sometimes they lay down the law successfully for one season and they win the league. The most successful team in English football over the last decade has indeed been Chelsea in terms of league titles and all the rest of the stuff. But is it right, the way that Sarri is being treated by his players in particular, and what does this say about the state of the club? Is it just Chelsea or is it everywhere?
It's a bit of everywhere. I think you're looking at the Sarri ball when he came in first. Chelsea were flying. Personally, I was loving the way they played. You know, he was signed to bring in this new type of football. Really successful in the first few months in the job. A few hiccups here and there. You know, rumblings about players not being happy and players not being this and players not being that. And I think there's an overall thing that's kicking into English football, probably maybe football around Europe, is players downing tools for managers. You know, I think it's a real question that has to be asked. If you have a falling out with the manager in the Premiership and you're a high-profile player and your team has a few shaky results, you know, do you go to the next few top players and say, this fella isn't good doing it, this fella isn't good enough? And then all of a sudden, are we getting to the point where players stop playing for managers? And I was at a game years ago when Solskjaer was struggling with Chelsea, and I could see Drogba, who was stopped playing, and Gus Hiddink came in and Drogba scored 11 goals in the next 7 games. It was just a completely different type of player. And I think, you know, I hope that this doesn't happen in Chelsea at the moment. I think it happened a bit with Mourinho at United. Yeah, he was falling out with players and they didn't like the style of play and it was going bad. But I do think a certain high-profile players there just maybe said, you know, we'll have a few bad games for this fella, he'll get the bullet and we'll get someone new into managers and everything will be rosy in the garden again. If it was Kerry, if it was a club team or a Kerry team and you're falling out with the manager, you have to sort it out or you just won't play, you know. And I think
unless you're Cork, obviously, in which case you go on strike.
Yeah.
You get rid of the manager again and again and again.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't. That's a rarity more so. I don't see any of the Chelsea players or the United players going on strike. They're doing it in a far sneakier way, I think.
Is there a counter argument though that these careers are so short and they want to be successful, and that ultimately that there needs to be some player power to suggest that, okay, we really respect you and your track record as a manager, but what we don't respect is the way you're going about your business at the minute, and you need to change as a manager. There needs to be some way for dialogue to be possible. Yeah,
dialogue is absolutely never a problem. I've had plenty of dialogue with managers over the years, but you always give it your all for your club or your county or your country or whatever sport you're playing. You can't for 1 second, like if I thought I saw somebody on a team that I played on that was not playing to their full potential or not trying because they were having an argument with the manager, I'd be choking them down the tunnel. I'd be savage. Like it's just not acceptable, and I think it's happening more and more, and I think it's an easy cop-out, and us as public, it's always the manager's fault. Do we really delve into why are these players not playing? It's far too easy to say, I'm having a fight with the manager, I don't like what he does, I'm going to stop playing, or not playing well.
What did you guys think of what the Cork hurlers were doing then? Because you're kind of contemporaries of a lot of those guys. It must have come up in conversations at training or in the pub afterwards going, geez, that's interesting what they're doing.
Yeah, to me it was, if they went that far with it, that it must have been unbelievably toxic, you know, that if you were going to go that far with it. So to me it was always, you know, I know there was issues and there was fires against, but I had no real like if they were going that far with it, they had a real reason to go that far with it. You know, there was something. Yeah, no, it's the sneakiness of the downing tools. You know, stick or twist on Sarri. Chelsea are notorious for twisting, and it has worked for them. But I'd kind of like him to see them stick for a while longer with this guy and let him get his philosophy. And I know, you know,
get rid of Hazard, get rid of a few of the players there who aren't trying a leg at the moment, and get players in who are his players.
Well, when we say they aren't trying a leg, there was a freak result against Burnley, and the last day you're playing against an absolute unbelievable Man City side. They hit you for a few goals early on. You keep playing that same way, which is the way he plays, and you leave yourself open, you know, you could go into a 5-4-1 and try and hold out and lose 3-0, but pointless, pointless. I'd be going for the juggle. I'd prefer to lose 6-0 than lose 3-0.
Yeah, okay. So Shane Lowry is our next talking point. Obviously, Shane Lowry's had an amazing start to the year and has reminded everybody about just how popular he is. He also is one of those players who has the potential to really reinvigorate the European Tour. Having decided not to chase his PGA Tour card this year, you know, it's cause and effect really, because he lost his card last year. He has committed to the European Tour, and you have personal experience of this. You've seen him at a European Tour event and the popularity he's held in, and this is outside of Ireland.
Yeah, I was down in Dubai a few weeks ago watching him there. He just won in Abu Dhabi. He's just held in such regard by Irish people. I think his Irishness is is huge. You know, he loves the GA. He's watching GA go. He loves the Irish soccer team. You know, he loves the Irish rugby team. He's really into all the sports. He's a real down-to-earth guy, which I think people have a great fondness for him as well. But overall, his golf game is you know, really good. And he did struggle for a year or two there, and it was tough to see because, you know, I'd watched him in a few interviews. I met him above the Irish Open last year in Donegal, and you know, you could tell mentally he was struggling with, you know, I'm so good at this game, but I'm not playing well. That must be so hard for a golfer. You've no teammate to pull you out of it. You've no teammate to carry the slack. It's all down to you. And I think for a player like Lowry, to see him playing so well again, to see him win that tournament, to see him out there with his daughter and his wife was lovely on the green, because, you know, he's a daughter around the same age as myself, and I just, that moment when he was on the green with them was lovely for me as a dad and as a sportsman, to just see him kind of have that little moment, because, you know, you could tell that there was a bit of a patient wait to get there. So for me, and like, you know, I'm delighted to see him so back up to 44th in the world. You know, he'd be in the majors, you know, Ryder Cup next year.
Yeah, Harrington has to pick him. He has to pick him, right?
Yeah.
Whatever everybody complained about, oh, you're just picking your mates. Yeah, I am. I'm the Ryder Cup captain. I get to pick my mates.
Well, you know, his game is so good. Like, his shot game is one of the best in the world. So, you know, mixed.
It'd be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'd be brilliant in some of the Ryder Cup games. And you know what? He's got serious guts as well. So that's huge in a Ryder Cup. And I think if you're coming down the 18th and Lowry's all square and the match is on the line for Europe, I'm backing Lowry.
Yeah, anytime he's in contention, it's always in like a massive tournament. It's like a major, a WGC. It's like these run-of-the-mill European Tour events. It's like, okay, I'm not really that.
Yeah, I think if you can do it at that level in them high-profile events, you can do it anywhere. But there's a sense of him and his pride of place in Ireland, and therefore, if he was on a Ryder Cup team, I can see the crowd, like the crowd around him. I followed him for 7 or 8 holes below in Dubai, like, and he went, I think, 5 under or 6 under for those 8 holes. And the amount of Irish people around the greens, the cheers when the putts were going in, like, I'd say the other pros are around the place there kind of going, what's going on? Like, there was no, like, high profile guys, there was nobody really around after them, they were all after Lowry. Yeah,
there's a similarity, I think, in terms of his popularity with Sean O'Brien, that he kind of transcends his own sport and everybody just goes, that guy is somebody that we can get behind.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah, there's a good bit of that about him.